Welcome to the Evergreen Creative Company Podcast. We like to call it the Evergreen Creative Podcast. It's a little bit shorter to say, but our main goal for this podcast is to share our experiences as a company through the projects that we work on a weekly basis. Whether you're a client or another creator, you're going to get to hear our experiences from each project that we work on. So if you find value from this podcast, please leave a review and also share this with your friends and colleagues. So Kristen's got the GoPro and the ZV-1.
Really?
So normally that's what I would try to use for our podcast stuff, but we're using our FX3, but it actually might be the way we go now, because if what we normally do is sync up the audio from our Zoom recorder to whatever the camera is, and then just sync it in post, but
we can record
smart
it straight
guys
in.
like ourselves is like we can actually feed a line to the FX3.
Smart guys like us, 6
Megan?
podcast episodes in.
Megan told me that she watches the podcast.
So she's like our only person that watches.
I know. I told her that too. I said you and Miss Julie.
Like, we need to find out where people are actually listening or watching from, because we post to YouTube and then we post to the podcast platforms too. So I feel like our YouTube stuff gets more views, but
I haven't checked into the analytics.
yeah, we
lately.
need some like shares, because we could just use a lot more. It'll come. What do they say, like Rome wasn't built in a day or something like that?
Yep.
We're building an empire.
On the podcast that's supposed to be about one thing, but usually becomes about another.
Yeah.
We just start talking about
I think
dumb stuff.
Obviously,
like
we'll always talk
TikToks.
about the projects that we work on, but we also just want to talk about topics and subjects that we want to communicate to the industry, but also clients and so on and so forth, that could be helpful information for both parties.
We're not at the point where this podcast can be about the personalities.
Yeah.
With all 3 people watching.
Recording on Monday
Hello,
morning.
Megan.
Let it be my personality.
Yeah, Megan.
Speaking directly. I thought you were speaking.
We're just gonna talk to
directly
Megan
We're going
now.
to talk directly to our one viewer.
Hey, Megan.
Megan, how was Revive?
Hey, Miss Julie Parrish.
I saw some recap
stuff.
stuff about.
Miss Julie Parrish was trying to secretly hire me. And
Secretly.
yeah, when we were at the shoot the other day, she was like, so what are your hours and stuff? And so then she was like, I'm going to tell you what I do, but I'm going to wait until Kristen's not listening. And she was like,
rat it out,
so
Julie.
I need help. Anyway, Kristen knows.
Julie, you could just hire Evergreen.
Well, she was saying
I'm just
like
kidding.
help with managing all her various jobs.
Oh, yeah, she needs a personal
Needs
assistant for sure.
Needs
Yeah.
an executive assistant. Yeah.
Yeah,
She was
don't
like,
hire
"Can you help
Evergreen for
me?"
that.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, can you help?
I thought you were going to get at like some sort of content help with something. Yeah, so I saw Megan. She was back at Revive Conference. She does the spoken word stuff. I haven't heard the spoken words
She
yet.
did it at our
She did
church
it, yeah,
yesterday.
we
too.
didn't go to
Oh,
Revive, but
cool.
she came
Yeah,
to church
she
yesterday and did
Kills it every time.
Mhm.
It's like sends chills down
I don't know
your
how
Yeah.
she
spine.
remembers all that stuff either.
I know. It was crazy.
Like writes it and then memorizes it and then has enough stuff to talk for like 7 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah,
how do you remember that?
It's so good. One of my almost like I'm just a fan. She just does a good job regardless of what she's working on. But it's like one of my favorite ones was the Easter video that we created
Yeah.
Love that
back in
video.
2020. Like it was one of those, like you had a vision in mind of what this could be and just the vibe and the feel and this kind of stuff. And I think all I did was text her some like ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and she put together this thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's like, I don't have anything to record with. I was like, use your phone, it's fine.
Yeah.
And
She did that for me one time. I had a video project at the
Mhm.
ramp, which ended up getting canceled because COVID.
mhm.
But I asked her to write a spoken word, and I was very vague, and
Mhm.
she wrote it, and like it was so good.
Yeah, it's perfect every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just to also reiterate, like the Easter video that I'm referring to, or if there's anything else that you guys have recorded, we'll try to put that in the show notes.
That video, like the spoken word, all that stuff was one thing, but it was crazy that like that point in time when everything was kind of still locked down because of COVID was like a once in a lifetime thing. Yeah. Like nothing, it'll never look like that ever again.
Right.
Like it's like all those people who like flew drones in like downtown New York or anything like
Right.
that.
I remember
just
seeing
streets
a lot
are
of
like
that kind of
empty.
stuff.
It's like it'll never be like that again.
It was eerie. Like in our small town of Dothan, it was just like this weird feeling.
To see nobody on the circle.
Yeah,
I'm
my
sure.
friend James Champion, another photographer in the area, he got the idea, and we were just texting like, yeah, let's make this happen. And like being media, we could play that card, but also we had a little bit of a press kind of rights or whatever. But we also contacted the police chief and, you know, hey, we're looking at trying to do this, and still try to not do stuff out of ill will or whatever you want to call it, but just making sure that we're not going to step on any toes that don't need to be stepped on. But anyways, like, yeah, long story short, we got up at sunrise, recorded a bunch of stuff, and the idea was basically like, this is the only time, at least in modern history, that, especially on Easter Sunday, like the pinnacle Sunday service of every church known to man, like that's the most attended service outside of like Christmas kind of stuff. And to have empty parking lots and minimal staff trying to put together like online live streams kind of stuff.
Yeah, literally it was like me and my dad were
like less than
like
10 people
I
kind
was
of
recording him, and like that was it.
So it was nuts. Like, and we went around town, and to see like the circle just completely nothing going on. There was hardly any kind of traffic at all. Like every once in a while you'll see like this random car, but then like going inside of a couple of the churches too on Easter Sunday, and like there's so many like takeaways from that, like being in a position like what we're in, being able to still provide like, you know, broadcast services or you know, capture different things, recordings. Like, I mean, at that point in time, like our business took on more live streams. It took on just different media formats that I think a lot of businesses or organizations didn't really consider doing until, you know, something like that happened, to where you still need to communicate with your audience. And so we both had this idea. It's like, yeah, let's make this video, photos, all this kind of stuff, capturing this historical time in our lives. And I told Megan about it, and she just nailed it. And it was just like some of the words that she had matched perfectly up with some of the visuals that we had. So it was really cool. And like, I get really motivated by spoken word kind of stuff. It's something that really like just resonates with me. So it was neat to hear that. And like the first time I heard it, I was like tears in my eyes kind of thing. It was so good.
She's so gifted. Yeah, my dad got up there after her yesterday, and he was like, I need a minute.
Yeah, it's like, how do you like follow something like that?
Literally.
Yeah, it's like it really is one of those things, like the way that she presents and communicates, and just the passion that goes
her
through all the work
and everything too.
It's
the emphasis on different words and stuff. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, when you hear it, you do have to take a moment. Like, you can't just like go on to the next thing and like almost pretend it didn't happen. It's like you need to let some things just sit and settle before moving on. So yeah, that's the other thing too, like that I appreciate about what we do, is like we get to work with different artists. We get to, like, I really find a lot of motivation to capture artists or just people's passion, put it that way. Like, that's what I get motivated from, because sometimes like I feel like I hold back quite a bit, and sometimes that's my like release in a way, in a creative way, to try to communicate someone else's passion. So it's like I almost feel like they don't know how to communicate themselves, like in our kind of medium or format. So it's like there's this like creative I don't know what vibe that just kind of happens between the two creators, and we're able to really do some cool stuff. So I need some more of that kind of thing. Like, I love the stuff that we do. We get to work with some amazing people, amazing projects and things like that, but it's been a minute since I've done something for myself, just for the purpose of creating.
That's like Houston. We were talking about when he was shooting at the camp, and he was, creating everything. It was like his idea and all this stuff, and it was just like a really like creative.
Yeah, they had no direction going into it. They just like, do your thing, let loose, make what you want to make.
And so he was like super proud of it and stuff, and like that he, did all of it, and he got to just like be completely creative in all of it.
And I would say like it's a prideful thing, and I don't know, and mostly a good way, but it's like when you are able to have that kind of creative freedom, you do get like a better sense of pride.
Get your best work out of it.
And it's like I use Kelsey Bernard Clark as an example all the time. She's a creator in her own way, and she's literally the kind of client that's like, this is like the feel and vibe of what we're going for. This is what the project is, and do your thing, I'm going to do my thing, and it just works. And for like her to be at like the levels that she works with, and us to hardly ever have to do any kind of revisions, like that's huge. Like, so that's a lot of fun when that kind of stuff happens. And those have been some of my favorite videos that we've worked on, with her doing the cookbooks or the classes, things like that, or just the Kentucky Derby, the recent one. But yeah, it's almost probably, as far as a personal project goes, been since 2020 that I've actually done anything, and that's like almost like, that's a long time ago now. There was the Easter one, but then there was another one where Mike Smits, he sponsored like a bunch of food trucks and fed the city.
Oh, wow.
And so Orrin, which is the wedding that we did on Saturday.
Also chilling on the wall.
Also right behind you.
Oh, yeah. You probably recognize him if we do.
It's a good portrait.
But me and him went around to the different spots and like interviewed people, captured those moments, heard like what this meant to the food truck industry, because like back then, restaurants and every industry was impacted in some way, but for anything that really banked on crowds of people, like really got hurt. And so the former mayor Mike Smits, he sponsors some food trucks around the city, different locations, and that impacted those business owners, but also fed people that might have been struggling financially at that point too. So,
and I've been on his boat, so that was cool.
Is it a nice boat?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was several years ago. Stayed at his condo, and went on his boat with him, because my mom was friends with him and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a different
nice guy.
time.
So nice guy.
Yeah, very nice.
I say it's never going to happen again. We didn't know all this stuff was going to happen in the first place. Who knows? Right. But yeah, we had like a show in February 2020 in New York City, like the last weekend of February. And then 2 weeks later, the entire city was shut down.
Yeah, in that part of the country, like more stuff was shut down at that point. It took us a couple more months here in the South.
We pulled all the gear off the road, and then all the churches and stuff had to start doing live streams. So Jeremy nobody could come into the building, so Jeremy set up a whole like television studio inside the sanctuary because his gear wasn't getting used anyways.
Oh,
sweet.
We all were at Mardi Gras 2 weeks before everything happened. We all got back and everyone got sick. We all like flu
probably
or something.
COVID.
It was
didn't know
COVID,
it at the time,
but we all were like, dang, we have the flu. And it was horrible. And then literally 2 weeks later, they were like, oh, coronavirus. And
New York City was like the first big one.
It was like a big
earliest
joke on the internet. Like everyone was joking about it. And then it was like, as the days passed on and like weeks, it was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I was talking to friends that we were with the week before about how we had done some trip in like early February 2020, and it was like we were on our phones and we were like, oh no, like this state got their first coronavirus case. And it was like crazy to think back to those early moments where it's like you were looking at like a map to see like, oh, the entire state of Texas has 14 coronavirus cases.
Right. Yeah, it was a crazy time. But I think in this discussion for like this podcast, topic could definitely be like just creating to create. Like creators, we have to get that, or like you'll get in a rut, you'll get burnt out. And it's just good to also
or
just
even
explore.
Adaptability too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of creators had to adapt in that time too.
Mm-hmm.
Even like you're saying, like Megan didn't have anything to record with, like just use your phone, send it
Right.
my way, we'll do something with it.
Yep, cleaned it up the best we could, and it still worked. It still was very impactful. What are some, like, outside of assignments, what are some of the stuff that you like to try to create? Like, what stuff that kind of, like, speaks to you? Or, like, if there's a
That's a good
project that
question.
you've had on something that you've wanted to do for a while, just haven't taken the steps to do it yet.
So I think I would like to at some point make a documentary. I don't really know about what, but there is this story out of my hometown that I don't exactly know if I can do it. I mean, because there's an author, she's written about this story. She's made 2 books about it, and she owns a production company, so I'm sure there's something in the works. But like my hometown is like 12,000 people on a good day, like super small town. But back in the 50s, there was this like first female lawyer in the entire state, like came out of there. She was like a law partner to a U.S. senator at the time. And she just inexplicably went missing. And they never found her. Never found a body, nothing. And, excuse me, we all got the
I know, I was burping as you were doing
we all got the throat goblins this morning. They never found her, never found a body, anything like that. And there's all these theories because they think she was kidnapped by the mafia. The Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is like an hour and a half north of my hometown, was a huge mafia hotspot, like in the 40s and 50s. Like Al Capone had a hideout there, all sorts of stuff. So they think she was kidnapped by the mafia. She was involved in some cases that were trying to take down organized crime in the state.
Right.
And the police commissioner at the time was supposedly all wrapped up in it. He was dirty. He was taking bribes and stuff.
Right.
So they think police commissioner mafia worked together to kidnap her, put her inside a well, filled it with concrete, all sorts of stuff. Like there's tons of theories. There's these 2 books out about it. Anyways,
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be super cool to make a documentary about it, but then also like
You don't want her
there,
missing either.
like wasn't someone
our most recent mayor, our current mayor, when he came into office, he's lived in the town for years, but he wasn't
in Arkansas, to clarify.
Yeah, in Arkansas, in my
This is
hometown.
not dope.
No,
We would
he
never.
he's lived there for a number of years, but he's not from there originally. So he becomes mayor and then finds out about this story, and he's like, well, we should get involved and find out some more about this, and had multiple people come to him and be like, it's best if you just stay out of it.
Yeah.
And they like
So
to
I'm
say
like-
that to our mayor.
I
I'm
know.
like,
So I'm like, Houston, I think maybe we should skip that one.
but
That
hey,
would be cool.
what's the fun
But
if there's
only-
not the
So
risk of life?
If there was maybe
Yeah.
like a bunch of people involved in it, that'd be one thing. But if it's like Houston and me filming a documentary around,
Yeah,
like,
you're going to need
never
like
hear from us
even
again.
security hired and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or even like a private investigator kind of level kind of
Yeah.
stuff, just to look out for stuff that you don't know what to look out for.
I just thought it would always make a really compelling documentary. It just because of the content alone, like
Totally.
you find like a female lawyer in the time where
Yeah.
like females weren't really that empowered, and then mafia stuff is always interesting.
We watch a lot of true crime documentaries, and he's always like looking at different shots or whatever.
There's a couple people here locally that started a true crime podcast.
Really.
I'll have to look up what the name is.
But yeah,
I watch
something
them
like that.
to fall asleep.
But outside of that, like there's a few passion projects in mind, just with friends and people that I know that are also artists and creators in different ways that I would love to kind of just pick their brains and document their processes in a way. Just because, I mean, even getting creative with other creatives, I mean, is always going to produce, you know, interesting content, but it's
that, and
never really come to
really
fruition.
develop some really cool relationships that way too. Like back, I can't remember if it was like September of 2019 when I went to Montana for Sony Camera Camp, and I connected with a bunch of other creators there that I still like am in contact with periodically and stuff. So you get that camaraderie and stuff too. For me, like a project I'm really wanting to happen this year is it's like a mental health. I know I've talked to you at least about it, but it's a mental health effort, or more like awareness kind of thing. My biggest roadblock right now is more of like the branding side of it. Like I want specific verbiage, but a lot of it's taken already. So it's trying to find different variations of that kind of stuff and taking time to try to do some research on that. I've already got like the look and feel of what I want to do, and it's like a coffee table photo book kind of approach, to where like I want it on, you know, I imagine it sitting at like Mural City on a table, or not necessarily doctor's offices. Obviously that would probably happen, but just different like relaxed atmospheres kind of thing. And then, you know, see it, take it. It's intriguing in the sense of like the art form of photography, but like with some story behind it too. So that's something I really want to get done this year. I just gotta get it, the branding side of it, and messaging and things like that. Because I'll probably end up using the studio and stuff. And like I said, I don't want to give away too much, but like that's a personal project I would love to work on. But also like something that like resets my, like, I don't know, just creative mind and stuff, is like going on travel type trips, to where it could be a solo trip or just like with a buddy kind of thing, and just go to a really beautiful area and just be. So it's like I'm there just like on like a mental health vacation in a sense, but also like I really love being able to capture some of that, like with like drones, or, you know, just some like cinematic like footage or whatever like that. It kind of just gets me grounded again, and feels like I can step back into some of the more reality kind of stuff. But like those kind of things definitely help motivate me to.
Yeah, I'm hearing that beeping too.
Yeah, there's Shell station across the street. But yeah, it's super important for us creatives to do personal projects. Like it's really easy, especially in today's world, to where like content always has to be created. There's always a project that you can do, but to step aside and take some personal time, because like that's the hard part when you are creative, and whatever format that it is, whether it's painting, photography, video, graphic design, whatever it is, like those are all skill sets that the world wants. And it's really easy. I say it's really easy. It's easy to obviously make money, get paid to do that kind of stuff, which is great. It's wonderful to make a living doing this kind of stuff, but it's really easy, or just as easy, to get caught up in all that and not do anything for like how you're created as a person. So there's stuff that speaks to our hearts that will end up speaking to someone else too. And that's the important part as well. It's like we have these gifts, we have these talents and skill sets that the world wants from us, but like if the world is constantly just pulling from us, it's just going to leave us empty and unmotivated and get in ruts, and it's difficult to do that. So to get filled back up, it's definitely important to step out and do something for yourself.
That's why I feel like I've been talking for several months about studying graphic design, because I feel like it'll help me feel like I have an outlet to do something other than the normal, you know what I mean?
I shared something on my Instagram story that this graphic designer that I follow, he makes like all sorts of like, I say his style is kind of like American traditional tattoos, but in like a graphic design sort of way. He put out this graphic it's just the big thing was it was make art, not content.
I saw that. It's really good.
Where, you can get caught up in the algorithms and the contracts and all this the stuff about it, but if you're not also making art for yourself, stuff that you enjoy, then what's the point?
It's like there's this artist I follow on TikTok. I don't know if you've seen him or not. He does like realism pencil drawings, or most of the time pencil. It's so ridiculous, like the detail. It looks literally like a photograph, and it takes him like hundreds of hours to do that kind of stuff. But like when he's talking about it, it's like it's really, man, he loves this, and like you can tell that it communicates that way. And when he finally shows like he'll show progression, just little segments of the drawing, and then obviously when he's done, he shows the whole thing, and it's just like, wow. It's like, this is like, he's definitely like a prime example, in my opinion, of like he's got this talent and gift. He's worked hard for years to master it, and having people share that kind of stuff to the world is just like that's what makes the world special kind of stuff. It's like what in such a negative society and all this crap going on all the time, like you see someone that pours their heart out into something and then like gets to share that, like that's really cool. So it's like, as creatives, like we've got to find a way to do something outside of the assignment. And like you're saying, the content thing, like obviously it's nice to share stuff on social media or whatever, but it's like, goodness gracious, it's like the algorithms, like they want you to post so much.
Yeah, the constant push to post all the time can kind of take away from any kind of focus you have as a creative sometimes.
It makes you wonder if like it's ever going to slow up. Is it ever just going to
like, are we ever going to get to a point where we're more intentional about what it is that we put out rather than continually churning out stuff for the sake of content?
I think right now everyone, like viewers wise, are so used to always having something in front of them. They're used to, it's a generation of iPad kids, and so and so
if I could turn the camera on, my son's on his iPad right now.
So they just constantly want stuff, and if there's a creator or influencer, whatever, that they like, they want to feel connected. They want you. They feel like if you're putting stuff out there, that they deserve like a right to know every aspect of your life. So they're constantly wanting stuff, and they're constantly wanting content. That's what I'm thinking. They're constantly wanting content, and from the creators that they like.
Consumers want to consume.
Yeah, from the creators that they like they want content from you.
Right.
So it's like an all the time thing.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I don't see it slowing down, because I feel like it, like, as amazing as social media is, as electronics, all the things, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I don't see it going anywhere.
I know we're in the age of TikTok, and I love TikTok for what it is, and like people pushing the boundaries of what short form content can be. What?
It all depends on what your feed is.
I'm thinking of the Buzz Lightyear in the bathtub.
Okay. There's that side of TikTok, but
that's my favorite part of
that
TikTok.
Side of TikTok. we have a previous episode where we pulled up each other's feeds and like stark differences between.
Yeah. But mine's hilarious.
But that's what's crazy is
your
like
For You
so
page is a
types
fever
of
dream.
It is a fever dream. But you know what? It's the best, and it's hilarious, and I provide people with funny videos.
But we are in the age of TikTok, and what TikTok is and what the boundaries creators are able to push with short form content is impressive. But there are a lot of times where like I miss the long form YouTube video.
Oh yeah.
Like the 10-minute plus, like took their time to kind of craft this piece of like storytelling, or just like something that kept me interested for that long.
Yeah, so that reminds me.
Like nobody's going to sit down and watch like a 10-minute Casey Neistat vlog anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of.
I would, but we grew up with that.
Yeah,
we came up in that era.
It's kind of why I've liked like podcasts have become big, because if I'm cleaning or like doing anything like that, I want to have something like that. So that is the good thing about podcasts is I feel like whether it's in YouTube video form or it's on Spotify, whatever, like those will be, 40 minutes, an hour, an hour and a half. And I don't feel like I'm having to every 10 minutes go find something else, whatever. I can put it on and do my thing.
Yeah, it's not like a scrollable format to where it's easy just to flip it away and move on to the next thing. You can always just be playing in the background and get that retention time, which is always important too. But like going back to what you say about the YouTube stuff, because like I started out on YouTube. That's how I started as a creator. And tech videos, for the most part, are longer form type stuff. And like I remember seeing it to where it's like you had to start cutting back on how long the videos were, unless if you just had built that audience around to knowing like you have an hour long video, like that's your identity. But if you were anything outside of that, when daily vlogging came in, like I love Casey Neistat, but I feel like he almost destroyed YouTube in a sense because
1000%. He came in on the tail end almost too.
Also David Dobrik, because he had 4-minute 20-second videos, do 420, haha. And it made everyone want to do these short things where everything in it is super interesting, super engaging, and then TikTok. So then it was like perfect, a minute, and you can do your daily vlogs like that, whatever. And
it's crazy how, and so like the tech community really, I think I'll use tech community because like that's the circle of influence that I know of, and I know there's other categories that probably were impacted by the daily content and things like that. It's like for the tech community, it's like we can't make daily videos like that. Yeah,
you can't list all the specs of the new MacBook Pro in a minute 30. Like,
well, yeah, and then like even so, obviously Casey Neistat was very successful, and there's so many people that try to copy his style, but like the problem with that is like you saw a lot of people do these daily vlogs, putting out the daily stuff. And the reason why I didn't see them as successful is because like they try to do the whole daily report kind of thing. And like that's something I would tell people is like, if you're going to do this, don't do the daily report. Like that's not how Casey got his success. He got success because he has an interesting story with a purpose every single time. He's very intentional with every shot that he did. And like he captures stuff throughout his day with his camera, but it's like you could almost, you knew he had the storyline in mind because like one of the things that were tactics that he would do, he'd start talking and then he'd jump into the next sentence at a completely different location, sometimes on the other side of the world. Yeah. So it's like he was very intentional with what he did, and I love his videos. Like,
this is making me want to go back and watch them all.
Yeah, I could almost like re-binge all his stuff if I wanted to.
It's been so long.
It's been a long time now, but it's crazy just how like seeing the transitions of how social media has come and gone, and like we even as a business, like we have some of our structure of how we present to our clients with knowing the knowledge about like you can't just do one video and expect it to last a long time. Like, especially for social media type stuff, you can't just do this one video, do a great one, whatever. At best, it's going to last 48 hours.
Yeah, marketing and advertising stuff, like if you're trying to market yourself and get something out there to sell a product or sell a service, one video is not going to do anything for you.
And this type of job and everything is so saturated now because everyone's a creator. Everyone is,
anyone with an iPhone and a TikTok account is a creator.
is pushing content. So it's like you're constantly having to compete with other things, and if they're constantly pushing stuff, it pushes other people to constantly push stuff, and to not get lost in the scrolling.
Right. And so with all that in mind, something we do for every project is like you have your main video, and then you have micro videos that go with it. We even do that for this podcast. So most of the time on the social media stuff, you don't see the full episode. You see just little segments from it. And then you can listen to the full episode at the podcast stations or YouTube. But it's like that's just like I think one of the adaptations that even as a business, recognizing how the industry is, of how we have a leg up, and I think it also provides more value to the customer and stuff too. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I almost feel stressed out. Like, I just want to take a day off now talking about all the different content that we have to do. So it's like, need to.
You got to put captions on 30 social media videos today.
Yeah, that was nuts. Yeah, we referred to Metcalf, a client of ours. It's an attorney, CPA firm. But he sat in here for, was it like an hour recording? A little bit
an hour
over.
and a half, maybe.
Hour and a half. And out of that, 30 separate micro videos. Like, they're going to have content for days. And that's like every other month he comes in and does that. So it's crazy.
And it's really good financial advice.
Yeah.
Solid. Like, we get our like lessons or sessions and stuff in while he's here for sure.
Make content out of the stuff that, like, help us with this, please.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of the content is like, it's conversational. So it's like, in the production side of it, the target audience is honestly like Kristen and I, the
small business owner.
Small business owners, but also just, we have families, kids, and we're trying to make good financial decisions for our future, but kids' future, things like that, setting up different, so Kristen and I are definitely like a target audience for that kind of stuff. Next I say is, similar to you guys, just like, getting going kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Preparing for family.
Exactly. So it's really cool. We'll try to leave some examples of that kind of work in the show notes too. But so wrapping up the thoughts, I think we're good for this episode is, if you are a creator, even if you're like how you just kind of touched on about how maybe you're not the creator, but like you get so caught up in your daily tasks, like everybody has to find a balance somehow. And like finding that balance is so important, whether it's creating for yourself instead of the assignment, or if you're not a creator or creative in some sort, if you're just, 9 to 5 blue collar or whatever, find something that brings balance to that too. Because we just need that kind of balance in our life.
And, reminder for the both of you and anyone else who's in this industry, but I know, like, a lot of times Houston will get home and, like, he just wants to chill. Like, he doesn't want to do anything. But if you do have ideas of creative things you want to do, then you do need to make time for that, because...
At least write it down.
Yeah. Well, because it's like...
Because it's easy to forget those ideas.
All the, corporate things that you can be doing and headshots and all things that are great, but obviously aren't, like, super creative.
Right.
Those things are great, but
they pay the bills but don't get the juices flowing.
Yeah, but you have to have that balance. You have to do both. And even if it's like, taking up time or whatever that you could have for free time, whatever, like, I know the feeling of when you get done with a project that you've been creative on, you're really proud of, like, it's like a really great feeling. And so as a creator, you have to have that balance.
Yeah, you gotta have those proud moments for yourself, and it's a good thing.
And I mean, you can only be so proud of, like, doing someone's headshot.
So, like, pro tip wise for this episode, on the subject of being a creator, you've got to create for yourself. So what are like 3 things that you can do to help make it happen? I would say one for me is you got to make calendar dates. Like, you got to put something on the schedule. Otherwise, it's just going to get put on the back burner over and over again. That's probably my top tip for getting something done.
This one's for me. Take your camera out of the dang Pelican case. Just take it out.
You gotta, yeah. Sometimes it's hard to do something if you don't have it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I was talking, I think, to you on the way to the Green Grass Project, was that you gotta, I was trying to remember the camera names. It was like the ZV-1, I was talking about keeping that in my bag at all times, but then like Kristen took it for this trip and then I can't use it now. So it's like, I want a camera that I can keep with me at all times. Like, I remember having the Leica Q, and that was like my
Wish I had
camera.
one of those.
Yeah, so I was like, trying to make sure like it's so easy to use a phone at times, and there's apps that you can do like cinematic settings and all this kind of stuff, but it's just not the feel and vibe that I want. So it's like having a real camera with me at all times, like is not for vlogging type purposes, but it's like there's so many times I'm driving down the road and I see like a great sunset or like a great like rainbow or something like crazy looking, and I wish I had something better with me other than a phone.
I saw a TikTok yesterday where this guy was comparing an iPhone camera, like the same footage with an iPhone camera, as a $60,000 like
saw that
cinematic camera, whatever.
It was a crazy red
and
rigged out rig.
And so he was like comparing the two, whatever, and I was like, that is so like that's such a great idea.
Yeah, you gotta have, if you're a creator and like cameras are tools, so it's like you gotta have your tools with you. Like so, like you're saying, keeping the camera maybe out of the Pelican case or have the Pelican case with you, some way accessible. So pro tip 1, put something on the calendar. Pro tip 2, have your tools with you, and then 3, what's the third?
Just hit record.
Just hit record. Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Don't think, just make things.
I think there's a Think Media. I think that's the name of is it Sean Canal or something like that. He does a lot of tips on like beginner level type things. And he's like, stop making excuses, like just hit record. Like that's one of his biggest messages kind of thing. Also, like if you listen to Gary Vee, like he cusses a lot, so you have to get past that if you get hung up on that kind of stuff. But like his brutal, honest truth is so good, and like getting some motivation from other people, even like that, like he doesn't make excuses. He does stuff, and he doesn't care about what people think. Like that's the other part too. Is like sometimes we get hung up on, this isn't gonna be good, or like blah blah blah, make all kinds of excuses. But like you said, just hit record, and the more that you do something, the more you can like formulate the idea or whatever.
Or it's like, oh, I don't have time for this, whatever. And it's like you have to make time for stuff like that. I mean, you could use that with anything in life. Oh, I don't have time for this,
right?
But you have to make time for it.
So for editing purposes, so this pro tip for this episode is you got to make time for it. Put it on the calendar. Make goals or mile markers on the calendar. Like I need us to do this at that point, need to do this at this point, and then have your tools with you. Make a point to like be intentional with what you're doing, and then what was the third one?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Record.
Hit record.
Yeah.
Practice. I don't like the term necessarily practice makes perfect, but practice definitely helps you. Like so many times I'm on a shoot and I'm like, I got something in my head, but I actually have to do it in order to see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
So like you just got to get out there and hit record and figure out this stuff. So with that said, I'm tapped out. Have a good week. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We appreciate you watching or listening. If you find value from this podcast, please leave a review. It helps rank us up into the podcast algorithms. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show and share some of your project experiences, let us know, reach out, and we'll be happy to have you on the show, get you scheduled on. If you're a client and want to work on a project with us, there's contact information down below in the video description. We're looking forward to hearing from you and see what your ideas are and see how we can potentially be a fit to make your project happen. Until then, we'll catch you next episode.